Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio and welcome to week 16 of the Stash Buster block series. And today our block is called Broken Sugar Bowl. This is a 12-inch block. I'm using 3 different colors in it, and it uses 4 patches, half square triangles, and single squares. So I'll adjust the camera and I'll show you the pieces that you need to make this block. For this block I chose 3 different colors, and we have a teal aqua marble fabric here. It's a batik, and then this one is aqua. It's pretty close to the white. It's very pale, and then we have white. So what we need is we'll go with the dark first. You'll need 2 4 7/8 inch squares, and then you need 6 2.5 inch squares. And for your medium or medium light, you'll need 2 4 7/8 inch squares and 2 2.5 inch squares. For the white, you need 2 4 7/8 inch squares, and you need 4 2.5 inch squares. So we're going to get started by making the 4 patches first, and we're going to take all of the 2.5 inch squares and we're going to lay them out. And I'm going to start with this setting here, and the diagram and the written instructions for this block are on my blog, and there's a link in this description box below the video where you can find those directions. And so we're going to lay out this block here. So we have 2 darks, a medium, and a light. And then for this 4 patch in the center, we just need white and we need the dark. So I'm going to lay this one out. And then the remaining pieces for this one are going to go this way. And then we have our 4 patch units. So let's sew those together first, and then when we get those done, then we'll do our half square triangles. Okay, I'm going to start this with the first block I laid out, and I've got my pieces here, and I'm going to sew them together. And I'm just going to chain piece them, so I'm going to just put in one set right after the other. And if you want to, you can sew all of these at the same time and chain piece them all together. It doesn't really matter. Next thing I'm going to do is double check my layout. And so this piece is going to be like this. I'm going to leave this like this, and I'm going to finish the other 4 patches, and then I will go back and press them all, and then we'll sew those 2 together, the 2 rows together. So I'm going to place those back on my ironing board, and then I'm going to take the next set of pieces for the next 4 patch block. And here's the next one. And I'll lay that one out. And then do the next 4 patch. time to press. Okay, I'm going to start with this piece up here, and I'm going to press towards the dark on both rows, and the same on these rows here. We'll press towards the dark. Okay, on the same here, press towards the dark on each row. Now these are all ready to sew together. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first 4 patch, and I'm just going to nest the seams together. And then sew the seam. And then I'm going to lay this back down, and this one will lay with the aqua in the upper left corner. And then the next set, these are the darker aqua or teal with white. And I sometimes find when I chain them together and leave them in chains, it makes it a little harder to manipulate them, but it saves a little bit of time because you're not cutting them apart. Alright, that 4 patch is done. And this one will orient this direction. And then the last 4 patch is here. And I will press these all to one side and then work on the half square triangles. Okay, so I'm just going to press these to one side, and it doesn't really matter which side they're pressed to. And I'm going to lay them out in the order they will go in the block. So they're going to go like this. These 2 blocks are like, they're the same. They're just rotated. And the medium, which is the aqua that I'm using here, is going towards the outer corner, so that you have all of the whites lined up together. So that may help you figure that out. And also your darks are all going to go in the same direction. They don't line up, but they go in the same direction. They all go diagonally left to right. Okay, now we need to make our half square triangles. So I'm going to take the 4 7/8 inch squares and take a ruler and a pencil, and I am going to draw from corner to corner on the wrong side. And I've got 2 pieces stacked on top of each other here, so it looks like I'm drawing a line on both sides, but I'm not, because you can see right here there are 2 pieces now with lines on it. And I'm going to match that up with the dark 4 7/8 inch pieces, and these are batiks So there's really not any difference between one side and the other that I can see. So I'm just going to line those up, and now I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch away from this drawn line on both sides. Okay, I am using a 50 weight polyester thread. This is So Fine by Superior, and the color I'm using is 401, which is, it's a slightly off white. It's not a pure white, it's off a little bit. You can use whatever thread you like to piece with. It doesn't have to be this thread. I did some of these blocks with using an all-purpose thread. I used some 100% cotton 40 weight thread, so it doesn't really matter, whatever works best for you. And I'm using a 2.5 stitch length. I have my 1/4 inch sewing presser foot on and stitching 1/4 inch away from that drawn line. And raise my presser foot and swing to the other side and do the same thing. And I will do the same for the other 2 pieces. Okay. Now I'm going to cut them apart on the line that I drew on there. And you can do this with your rotary cutter or you can use your scissors. I'm just going to use my scissors because they're handy and I don't have to get up from my chair to take care of that. So this will give me 4 half square triangles, and that's what I need for this block. Okay, now we need to press these open. Okay, I'm going to press all of these towards the dark fabric. So I'm going to lay the dark fabric up and press them as they're sewn, and then just roll it out. And then I'm just going to make a little pile of them. And try not to mess up my 4 patches while I'm doing this. That would be nice. Okay, one thing that I do that not everyone does is I like to cut off the little dog ears that are formed from making the half square triangles. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them off. They just they don't contribute to anything. They're just extra bulk in your corners, and I just like to get them out of my way. So I'm going to cut those. And if you like to square up your blocks when you're piecing, you can certainly do that. And these should measure 4.5 inches square. As they've been sewn together now. So now we can put the block together, or now we can lay out the block. We're going to put it together. We're going to lay it out and then sew it. This half square triangle goes in that direction, and then I need a medium 4.5 inch square right there. And I have my center already. Half square triangle. The whites are going to face each other, and this one is going that direction. We're going to have all the whites facing in, so this one is going to go this direction, and then we have the other medium 4.5 inch square. So this is all ready to be sewn together, so I'm going to sew the first two pieces of each row together, and I'll chain them together, and then I'll add these pieces. Here's piece 1 and 2 of row 1. Now I don't usually label my pieces, but you certainly can if you want to. And just watching my seam so it won't flip on me. There's a half square triangle and a 4-patch underneath, and the 4-patch seam is facing this direction, so it's easy for it to want to flip. So I have to watch that. Now on this row, the 4-patch is going to be on top, so I can watch that easily. And this seam here on the back is already facing down, so it's not going to want to tend to flip. So we should have an easier time of it on this one. Just have to line up raw edges. Okay, and on this one I have just a plain block underneath. So I'm going to go back to the top row just by pulling it towards me, and then I'm going to open it up and then grab the third piece in that row, in row 1, and sew that one on. Then I'm going to open up row 2 and add that third piece. And then open up row 3 and add its third piece. Now I want to show you something on this one when I get it set and laid down here. And let me get it started. And I am losing my foot pedal. Okay, right here, I don't know if you can see that, this seam flipped just a little bit, and that's what I'm trying to avoid doing. Now this isn't a big deal, it's not that much, so I could just leave it, or I could unpick those stitches and restitch it again with that laid down. So it all depends on how much that kind of thing bothers you. Now I don't think that's going to bother me because it's not causing this part of it to flip over, so I'm just going to let it go. So now I've got all the rows stitched together, and now I'm going to press these rows and then we will sew the rows together. Okay, I have all 3 rows sewn, and now I need to sew the rows together, and first thing I need to do is to press. Now there are going to be points that need to be matched, and to do that I'm going to need to separate these rows so that I can look at the backs easily. Now if you look at it just the way it is, so get a little closer here, this point needs to match with this one, and this one needs to match with this one. So on the back, the way I do that is the seam here, where this seam line goes diagonal and this one goes up, the point is right where those two cross. So what I want to do when I'm stitching it across here on the row, I want to go just above that point. So I need to be able to see that. So all of the So all of those seams, I need to be able to see them. So I'm going to press them away from the half square triangles. So we're going to press these out, we're going to press these in, and then we'll press these out. So now I've got my pressing plan going, so I'm going to go ahead and press this bottom row and move it out of the way. So those are pressed out, so these seams need to be pressed in. And then these need to be pressed out. So you can see here, now I can see all the stitching lines in that point there and in this one down here. So that'll make it easier for me to match up the points. So let's go back to the sewing machine and get these rows sewn together. Okay, so I've got the first 2 rows, and now here on this first seam, I don't need to match points, I just need to butt up the seams, but this is where I need to match. So I want to work on that first, and I'm going to get a straight pin, and where that stitching is, I'm going to try and poke my pin right below that, and then on this seam, on the other piece, I'm going to do the same thing. I want to make sure where my pin is coming out is at the tip of this point. So let me go up a little bit further. There we go. And then I want to line it up to the tip of the white point on this one. So I got those together. It's a little bit difficult manipulating all this fabric and trying to avoid pushing the pin out or sticking yourself. It can be challenging. Okay, so I've got the pin in, and I want to keep it perpendicular. I don't want it to go side to side, so I want them to line up. I've got the seams nested in here, so I don't have them going in weird directions. So I think I've got them lined up pretty well, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stick a pin in, hopefully keeping that orientation. Now sometimes it'll slip a little bit and I'll be a little bit off. It's not always perfect. I'm going to pin these 2 seams together, and now we're going to sew this row, or these 2 rows. We're going to sew these 2 rows together. And just take your time. You know, this is a year-long project. It's not we're not in a race here, so we don't need to hurry. She says as she speeds up her machine. Okay, now we are getting towards where these points meet, and I can see where they are, and if you want, you can always mark right above that where they cross, so that it kind of helps guide your presser foot, so you know where you want to go. Okay, got past that. Now let's finish the row. Alrighty. And my little scissors here. Okay, let's cut threads and see how that looks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So you can see where the 2 points meet. There's no extra white fabric showing. So I think I got those, if I can get this lined up for you, got those points done pretty well. So now I need to add the bottom row, and I need to do the same thing with these two. Take my pin again and go through the back here. And I'm coming out just right above where those two meet, where the point is, and then match that up here. So the goal is to not cut off the points, but you don't want a lot of don't want to see a lot of background fabric around them either. So it can be a challenge. And you know, fabric is kind of fluid, it's flexible, it moves, it has a stretch to it, so it can be difficult. Okay, I'm getting to the point, so I want to mark this one. Whoops. It helps me guide it right through that channel in my presser foot. There we go. Okay. And now I need to match my bottom seams. I did not do that before I put that under the machine, so let me match that seam. There we go. Okay, let's look at this point. Okay, that one looks pretty good too. Okay, so when you're pressing your rows, you want to press them so that you can see the stitching where all of your seams meet, and that will help you line everything up and give you some really nice sharp points. So let's press this block open. Okay, so here's the block. I have lots of little stray threads on it. Now, as far as pressing, you can press it whichever way you want. If you're going to make a set of these and you're going to have them just butted up one right up against the other, you may want to press one block one direction, like one block out, and the next block you want to press in. You can always change that when you do your layout though, so it isn't that critical at this point. I'm going to press, I don't know which way I want to go on this. Okay, let's press out. No, I'm going to press in because it's making a, it seems to want to go in, so let's press it in. And do the same on this side. And that just makes it consistent. There's no reason. You could press this row out if you wanted to instead of in. That's all up to you. There, that looks pretty nice. So here is the finished block. This is called Broken Sugar Bowl. And I'll show you what it would look like if you had 4 of these and you wanted to put them together in a set. Okay, so here are 4 of the blocks, and I have them laid out so that the medium square is facing towards the center. And so we get this diamond shaped look, and that will carry out throughout the quilt. So that's pretty interesting. Now what if we turned it so that just two of them are facing and two are facing in, two are facing out. We get a completely different look. We've got some diamonds, some small diamonds scattered throughout the design. And I think that's pretty interesting. And then let's turn these so that the 4 patches are all towards the center. So we have that look, and you can see where it kind of comes in. So we'd have this diamond look here with the big medium squares would be in the center, and so that's just a different look. That's another way of looking at it. We've got lines crossing, kind of crossroads here, and I think that's an interesting block. You could do a lot of different things with this, and of course you could just you know, use a single block in a sampler quilt, or you could put sashing in between. You could put them on point if you wanted. You could put alternate blocks between them, where you would have this kind of a look with, you know, a plain block in between. So there's lots of different things you could do with this block. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you try this, and you know, take your time with matching your points on your half square triangles when they come together like that. It takes a little practice, and for me it doesn't always turn out perfectly, but I am not a perfectionist, so it doesn't bother me if they're off a little bit, like this one here. You really aren't going to see that unless you're looking really close at the quilt, but if this is a quilt that is laying on your bed, you're not going to really notice it unless you're looking for it. So you know, enjoy making your quilt blocks, and enjoy the quilts that you make, and you know, don't beat yourself up over, you know, a point that's not matching the way you want it to. So anyway, this is the Broken Sugar Bowl block, and I hope you enjoyed that. So there is the Broken Sugar Bowl block. I hope you like this block and give it a try, and I hope you will stick with me through the rest of the series. So in the meantime, please stay safe, please stay healthy, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.